Worst lesson of the entire course about to happen. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Okay, I'm going to use an erasable pen so I don't cry. I would encourage you to use a pencil. All right, so the trouble with this one is that they're word problems and you have to create the equation. So equations weren't terribly hard to solve, but now you have to create the equation first and then solve, kind of like your max-min projects. Okay, so sometimes it's easier to use a table when you're setting these up. And once you have the values of X, it's important that you check your NPVs. And are they reasonable? This is going to be a big one. I'm trying to find a highlighter. Are they reasonable to the context of the situation? So if you get two answers, -12 and 2, both of them are okay against your NPVs, but we're talking about distance. What am I going to reject? I'm going to reject that negative answer, right? Because it doesn't make sense in this particular situation. Sorry, I'm having a technical difficulties. There's something going on with the lens of my... It's like curved or something. I don't know. I feel... the board's orange. I couldn't get that off. I don't know what its problem is. Okay. Here we go. One thing you need to know is the formula for velocity or speed. What's the speed formula?
V equals d over t.
D over t? So we're not gonna use velocity because we're not worried about direction. We're gonna use speed. So you need to know this. It's not anywhere. Is distance over time. So it's not anywhere on your formula sheet, but my guess is you've all traveled in a vehicle before, hopefully. And the speedometer is measured in, or the speed limit is measured in kilometers per hour. So distance over time. You need that for this. Is this not big enough? Do you want me to make it bigger? No? We're okay with this? Okay, all right. Okay, a train is scheduled to run a 160-kilometer return trip between two cities in Manitoba. So 160 kilometers returned. So there and back. If the average speed is decreased, so I'm gonna get my little highlighter out. Decreased. What am I going to do to my speed here when I'm decreasing? I'm subtracting. Will take half an hour longer. Determine the average speed of the train. All right, here we go. The average speed, do we know what the average speed is? Do we know? No, doesn't give us that information. So we're going to give it a letter. Sure. So my speed is X. And do we know what time it takes me to travel when my speed is X, 160 kilometers? Do we know? We do not. So we're going to give it a different letter because it's measuring a different quantity.
Z.
Okay, Z. I was thinking S and T, but you're definitely mixing this up. Okay, so now it tells us something. If the average speed, you told me the average speed was X, is decreased by 16 kilometers. Tyler, what am I doing with this decreased 16 kilometers? I'm subtracting 16, right? I'm subtracting it because the average speed, you told me the speed was X. So this is going to be X minus 16. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, brilliant. And the trip is going to take half an hour longer. Now, I'm going to ask you again, what is speed measured in? Kilometers per hour. And what is this talking about? Half an hour longer. So I'm talking in hours, not minutes. That is hint, hint, nudge, nudge, trick question coming up. I might say something like, it's gonna take 30 minutes longer, and what do you have to do?
Convert it to hours, which would be 0.5 hours.
Right, so hint, hint, nudge, nudge, that's coming in the future. So it's gonna take a half an hour longer. So my time was Z, so what's my slower time?
Z plus 0.5.
Z plus 0.5. That's not terrible. We'll get all the pieces of the table. Super handy. I think I just copied the table from somewhere else, and there was another column in there. Okay, so now we're gonna set up the formula, and we said that speed was d over t. Everybody with me so far? All right, so we're saying, so the average speed is gonna be x 160 divided by z. So all I'm using here is this information from the table. Now I'm going to create a formula for when I'm going slower. And what would that be?
X minus 16 equals 160 over Z plus 1.
And so all I'm doing there is using the second row of the table to create my second equation. All right, so now we're going to do a little bit of chapter 8 work. We're going to do a little bit of chapter 8 work, and we're going to solve a system. So I have an equation. What does x equal?
Speed.
What does x equal here?
160.
160 over z. So they're the exact same quantity, right? X is equal to 160 over z. So we're going to take this and we're going to plunk it into the other equation where we see x. Everybody good with that? So this is going to be 160 over z minus 16 equals 160 over z plus 0.5. Okay? Now it's just an equation from yesterday. Step 1,
That
factor everything. Step 2,
MPVs.
NPVs. So z cannot equal
0.
0 and negative 0.5. I don't know why my 0.5 is so small, but I just decided I was going to do that. All right, so when we were solving equations yesterday, because I all know that you took my little talk to heart and you all did your homework last night. What's my next step?
Find the lowest common denominator and multiply it to all the derivatives.
Right, so my LCD. Lots of people just put the Z 0.05, and that would be a mistake because there's nothing you can times Z by to turn it into an add 0.5 because those are two different operations. So now tops only by the LCD. And yes, I always cross my Z's so they don't look like 2's. And now we're going to eliminate denominators. And now we're going to do the multiplying. Hey, is 100, or sorry, is Z speed?
No.
Okay, just wanted. Okay, it's time, that would be plus 80 minus 16Z squared. I'm doing some math in my head. I'm going to use a bracket here because I need to subtract everything else. I think I did all my multiplying right. Anybody want to check? I think I'm good.
Did you do the
A negative
160?
Ooh, this should be a negative
Yeah,
here.
negative times positive.
Thanks. Good catch. Anything else? That's
Did
it.
you do the 160 times 0.5? Oh, the 80, yeah, whatever.
I think I got it all. Am I going to be algebraing this or am I going to be factoring this? How come? You're not wrong.
Big one.
It's this one that's going to tell me that I'm factoring, right? Am I going to move everything to the left-hand side or the right-hand side?
Left.
I'm going to move mine to the right because that will change this to a positive. And that works better for my brain. Totally okay to, we're going to get the exact same answers in the end, but it helps my brain if we move to the other side. So I'm going to have positive 16z squared plus 8z minus 80. What can I take out of there first, though?
Take 8 out of it.
Take an 8.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, things get a lot smaller.
Yep.
Oh,
So what are the factors of negative 20 that add up to a positive 1?
4, negative 4, positive 5.
Negative 4, positive 5. So if we want to hop to a different piece of paper to do this math for the factoring, minus 10. So 2 times negative 10 is going to be negative 20. And we said that was going to be 5 and a negative 4. And again, it doesn't take me super long to do it, but I like doing it on a separate, clean piece of paper. Lots of room to make mistakes, lots of room to work out my math. Okay, so am I good to flip back to the other page? So this is going to be 8 equals 2z plus 5 and z minus 2. Okay, got that right. I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. I'm going to check those against my non-permissible values. Am I good? Okay, but I got to check them against the context of things. What does Z represent? So this is time, right? So can I have a negative time? Nope. So I'm going to reject that answer based on the context of this question. So even though it's not an MPV, I got to think about it, hey, I can't have negative time. Okay, so I found Z to be 2. Does that answer the question? No. Stupid question. What was the question asking?
What's the average speed?
What's the average speed? So do we have a formula that we made for
Yes.
average speed?
X equals
Look
160.
at that. We made one right here. We're so smart. So we know what Z is. We know Z is 2. So I'm going to take X equals 160 divided by 2. X is equal to 80. I'm going to deduct you a half mark if you leave it there because X is a speed.
Kilometers per hour. Also, you should put Z as, did it say what time? I guess hour.
It gave me, in the question, it gave me that it was kilometer. Oh, you're asking if this should be 2 hours down
Yeah.
here? It wasn't a final answer. So I wouldn't deduct you marks if you didn't have a unit there. I'm looking for units in your final answer. Would you be wrong if you put hours there? Absolutely not. But I wouldn't deduct you marks until your final answer because I just care about what's the speed. Okay, how was that? Not terrible. Okay. See, if I chalk it up to be terrible, then we're all good. All right. The Scallion family is driving to my lakeside cottage. FYI, I do not own a lakeside cottage, but we'll just pretend for now. At a rate of 90 kilometers an hour, because we are safe and responsible people. Oh, that should say they returned home. Sorry. The Scallions returned home on the same highway. So what do we know about the distance to my cottage and home from my cottage? It should be the same, because nobody's picked up my cottage and moved it closer to home, right? And we're traveling on the same highway. So we traveled at 60 kilometers per hour on the way home. Maybe it was snowing, who knows? If the round trip, so the whole there and back took me 2 hours, how far do I live away from my cabin?
So we're looking for distance, so we could rearrange the formula.
Okay, yep, so we are looking for distance this time. So I'm definitely using my speed equals d over t, and if I rearrange that, that's d equals speed times t. Okay, we good? Do you want to use the table? Do you not want to use the table? Table? Okay. My table's looking a little wonky, but you get the idea. What is my distance measured in?
Kilometers,
What's my time measured in?
hours.
Okay, because it doesn't explicitly state it, but it tells me that I'm traveling at a speed of kilometers per hour. Sometimes you'll do things in meters per second, but look at the cues in the question. Okay, what do we know about the distance to my cottage? Okay, that's the speed I'm traveling at.
It took you to 1 hour to get there, it's 90 kilometers per hour speed.
Okay, so we know, but it didn't take me 2 hours to get there. It took me doesn't say 1 hour, right? Because it's going to take me longer to get home from the cabin because it's in a snowstorm and I'm driving slower, right? Okay, so now so let's put in what we know. We know speed to the cabin is 90. We know home from the cabin is 60 kilometers per hour. Again, I'm not going to use units until the very end because I find they kind of get me confused with all the letters and different things going on. So I wait till the end to use them. Okay. Do we know how long it took me to get to the cabin?
No.
No. So what letter are we going to use?
D.
T. Just use T.
I'm going to go with Sydney with this one. I can't use D. That'll just be too confusing. On the way home, do we know how long it took us?
No.
But we know something about the total time. If it took me a half an hour to get to the cabin, how long would it have taken me to get home? An hour and a half. What math did you do? From what?
T.
You took T, you took the original time, and you just subtracted it from what number?
2 hours.
From the all around time, right? So you're going to do that again here. 2 minus T though, just because we don't know what the time was to get there. Now, what do we know about distance?
Nothing.
We know one thing about distance. It is in kilometers, yes. Okay, then we know two things about distance. What do we know about the distance to the cabin and the distance home from the cabin?
Took 2 hours.
No, that's about time. What do you know about the distance?
Same.
It's the same, right? It's whatever kilometers I drove out is going to be the same number of kilometers I drive back. All right. Do we know how many kilometers that is?
No.
No.
Is that?
So I can say with confidence those are both the letter D because they are both the exact same value. No one is picking up my cabin and driving it closer to town. I'm leaving it where it is. All right. Now I'm going to create a formula for to the cabin. And Tyler said that we should rearrange it because we're solving for distance. So we're going to go in and we're going to use this formula. And then we're going to do that same thing for the other line, the home from. Equals. That's exciting. Okay, they're both equal to D. So what I can do is I can take this value and substitute it where I see the letter. So this is what we're doing in chapter 8. We are solving systems. I have two, yeah, we did it last year. Yes, we're graphing it this year. Good times. So our new equation is going to be 90t is equal to 60 times 2 minus t.
GOT or BOT?
What?
Oh, it's 90T.
Isn't it a 90? Doesn't it look like a 9?
Yeah.
Probably just
I've been accused that my 6s look like Bs. It's just been a hard time.
G.
So because Tyler said, hey, let's rearrange the equation before I even get started, he actually eliminated denominators.
Good man.
So you eliminated it completely. So this actually isn't a rational equation. This is just,
Simple.
it's just kind of easy from here on in. So, you know,
My brain knew what I was doing before I knew what I was doing.
I love it. All right. Okay, so now we're just going to rearrange it, right? Algebra or factoring? Algebra, no t squareds in here.
I will state, oh no, no, no. I was gonna say something, but, I was gonna say MPDs, but we don't have any denominators.
We don't have any denominators because you switched things even before we get started.
Yeah.
Tyler, I love it. I have never had a student do that.
It's because of physics.
No, why would
The physics, I love it. Perfect.
All we do is do the algebra in the formula before we put the numbers in.
And you see the benefit to it, right?
Well, it could be T equals, T can't equal 0. Because if we take the original
We would have to say that t has to be greater than or equal to 0,
Okay.
right? So we could do a restriction on it based on just life. And t has to be greater than or equal to 0 because we've stated that you can't have negative time,
Right.
right? So that would be a restriction, but it'd be an inequality restriction, which we haven't done a ton of.
Now we gotta go put this back into our,
Because this doesn't answer the question. The
Yeah.
question was, how far do I live away from the cabin?
so it's the same. as-
Would this be better for your brains if we did that?
Yeah, just because.
And see, for me, it wouldn't be, but that's okay. So we know that distance is equal to 90 times 4 over 5.
8%.
How many times does 5 go into 90?
40.
18.
14.
I think it's 18. I think so, yeah. We'll check. 18. 18 times 4?
40, 32, 72.
Yep. 72 what?
Kilometers.
I find one of the mistakes that
So
people...
I feel like I could use, just put in my calculator 90 times 0.8 better.
Okay, all right, but just remember that next year, we're not gonna have our calculators as much, right? So the more we practice, like, kind of doing some mental math and different strategies in our head, the better it's gonna be, right? So, yes, it may be easier, but when you don't have a calculator next year, if you don't have strategies to pull from, it's like factoring, right? If you were good at it in grade 10, it's really gonna help you here. If you're not good at it, it's just gonna take some practice. All right, okay, so you guys, brilliant, good
You
job.
made that one easy.
You made that so much easier.
And I don't think longer because they have to so big.
Oh no, because we do a table and, okay. So now this one is a little bit different. Are you ready? Okay. Proud of you guys. All right. All right, Stella takes 4 hours to paint a room. It takes Jose 3 hours to paint the same area, like the same type of room. How long would it take for them to paint the room if they work together?
Okay, well, we're gonna be adding here. Do it together.
Right. And we're looking for time. Okay, are we looking for speed in this one?
No, so let's rearrange that formula once again so we can.
No, we're not using the speed formula. There's nothing about speed or distance in this one.
There's no distance.
You're not traveling.
You're painting a room. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna do a table.
That's why. Make sure that's proper French grammar on me.
Okay, how long will it take Stella to paint the room by herself?
4 hours.
4 hours. What about Jose?
3.
3. So what do we anticipate if they work together?
After tea,
It double, or no, it,
Halves.
it happens, yeah.
But that's not a true statement. If there was 2 Stellas working the room, then I might agree with you. But there's a Stella and a Jose.
Could go
Like
down.
if you add
2
them
hours.
together.
So, okay, I want you to speak more in generalities. You guys are trying to give me an answer and I don't want you to. What do we know if both of them are working on a room? Is it gonna take more time or less time?
Less time.
I hope it's less time.
Unless they fight.
Alright.
On
Okay.
top on the right, does it say after tea hours?
Yes.
Yeah, after tea hours. I try to curl my teeth so they look
What is the
A
tier?
little bit.
Just, what is the
Time.
time. After an unknown amount of time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, after 1 hour, how much has Stella painted of the room?
Oh.
After 1 hour.
A quarter.
A quarter. Good job. What about Jose?
A third.
A third. after T hours, an unknown amount of time. The idea of doing this was to help you better answer this
I
question.
have an idea.
Say it.
Actually, never mind, I don't think you're wrong.
Okay.
T times 1/4,
Who, what? T times?
1/4,
Times a quarter, that gives me?
Stella's whatever hours.
So a quarter times T. What does that equal, everybody?
P for pain.
Okay, what?
Oh, man. It's okay.
I did some math there.
It's okay, hold on. We've got the radio, that's why I can say it.
So what about Jose?
T over 3.
T over 3. All right. How much of this job do we want finished when they're done? All. Okay. We want, what's the best possible mark you can get on a test? 100.
100% of it.
Okay. We want 100% of this job done. If we were,
The whole fraction.
so we want
Oh my god.
We want one job completed,
Uh-huh.
100% of the job. So if we took 100, we converted it into a decimal, we're gonna get 1, correct? Now you guys told me if Stella and Jose are working together, what math am I doing? Somebody said it right at the beginning. It's gonna be an add question, right?
I said
So we're gonna take the unknown time divided by 4, plus the unknown time of Jose divided by 3, and that's gonna equal 100% of a job.
that's what I was gonna say earlier, but not, no, I guess I wasn't very able to say it then. That just made sense.
Because we want 100% of the job to be completed, right? We want all the walls painted. We're gonna convert that percent, because we don't work with percents mathematically speaking. We're gonna convert that to a decimal.
1/1. Or
1/1 or 1 or what, it's like 100 divided by 100 gives me 1, hopefully. All right, what's step 1?
factor.
They have to.
Factor everything. Oh, yeah, okay. Step 2, NPVs. Do I have NPVs in this situation?
No, you do not.
You are correct, but why?
Because there's no variable.
No denominator.
No variable in the bottom, so no NPVs. Okay, life's getting easier. Okay, Sydney, now you jump in with your piece of,
Now we've gotta have common
gotta have a common denominator. And what is the common denominator? Hopefully it's 12. And so then we are gonna multiply tops only by the 12.
And you said this was hard.
Yep,
It's really hard
Do
in
you
the
got more
assignment.
questions?
Yeah, she likes to do that.
I do. Am I factoring or am I algebraing?
Algebra.
Perfect. Do you want to change it to a decimal? Would that make you more comfortable? Oh, well, let's do a mixed fraction.
That too.
That sounds like a good time. Some grade 5 stuff.
How many times is 7 going to the 12? 1. How many times? 1 point.
It's an ugly decimal, by the way.
Would be 1.6.
Hours.
Hours. Yes, that's what I'm missing. Half mark deduction for me for not putting units of measure. 1.7.
I got you, Miss Sky, don't worry.
Thank you.
If you came up and asked me as a teacher, I'd remind you.
Thank you.
Units of measurement.
So that's it.
That's it.
All that scaring me for nothing.
There's me torturing the assignment.
Oh, the quiz?
Yeah, but I'll do this.
Okay, you know what, guys?